All right, you are a champion. You clicked on continue to section 2, which means you're serious about flipping houses on Oahu. So what you can expect from me is detailed guides. I'm going to have a couple of extra video recordings down below that go over more detailed things like how to set up an LLC, and how to look up zoning, and how to look up permits on a property, how to look up tax records, things like that. But I'm going to provide you a quick overview of the process of flipping a house here on Oahu, the steps, and some of the biggest pitfalls that most beginner flippers aren't really aware of or they run into on their first flip, so you can avoid all the pain, all the losing money part. But props to you, because you clicked on this next section here, so it looks like you're ready to have some freedom, right? Some finances, some great finances here, and for your family, right? So you can feed your family and have the freedom that you want. And for our first project here, that when you go to flip a house, you want to make at least around 50 grand, right? And it should take you about 3 to 4 months at the most to make 50 grand. Okay, so that's kind of what you're looking at here. I'm going to give you everything you need, and this, as we go into these sections, these modules, it might get a little bit more and more advanced, but just bear with me. It's worth it, right? Because you get great returns, and all you're really doing is solving problems. It's a good thing for our local people of Hawaii, right? So don't feel bad or anything about flipping houses. Get past the stigma. A lot of local people are doing it, and I do it, and it's a great service to the community. So just a quick overview of the flipping process. First, you're going to market to the sellers. Okay, you're going to market directly to sellers if you can. That's off-market leads, so you're going to try to get deals off-market. That's where you make the big money, right? That's where you make these deals possible. If you go on the MLS and look for a house that's for sale, listed on Zillow and things like that, you're not gonna it's not gonna work. Just trust me on this, okay? It's tempting because it's easier. It's easier to just call a realtor because the number is right there. It's convenient, and try to make a deal that way. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible, and I'm going to show you how to do that. And my first flip was actually off the MLS, but that is very rare. Okay. And I almost didn't do the deal because it wasn't possible, but the sellers were motivated, and we'll get into that later. So the first thing you're going to do, and I'm going to put this photo here for you to look at. It's the 4 steps. So marketing directly to sellers, you're going to open escrow, and escrow is just a company, like a title guarantee is what most people use here in Hawaii. A lot of people use it, and they just manage the transaction. Okay. You're going to do the rehab process, so you have your contractors, right? They're going to take care of all that, and then you're going to go ahead and sell the property. I like to use a realtor when I sell the property. There's so many benefits to having somebody help you with that, and it's realtor fees are all calculated in the calculator, the deal analyzer that I'm going to give you as well. It's a calculator that calculates everything for you. So I'm going to hold your hand the whole way, right? So let's go, okay? Now, before you go and find a contractor and go find a deal, there's one part of flipping houses in Hawaii that will really make or break your deal. It's understanding the zoning, the permits, and the legal structure of flipping houses in Hawaii. So this is what we're going to kind of go over right now. If you don't learn this first, you're really setting yourself for like long delays, being in rehab process longer than you want it to be, and it kills your profits, and you might even lose money here. Okay, so don't do that, right? Zoning and flood zones, right? The first thing I always check on any potential flip is zoning. This is when you're putting your offer in. So you've already found a seller, you've already had a conversation that he wants to sell you his house, and you're looking to buy it, and you're pretty much going to give him an offer to buy the house. So we analyze our deals during this time, right before we put in an offer. So this is where you check zoning. and it just determines what you're allowed to build, add, or change on a property. So there's a link below with zoning codes explained, right, and the link for checking zoning. You'll be able to view what type of zoning it is, like R5, R10, and I'll go into detail later in the other video that's linked below on zoning. So check that out for more details. It's going to tell you whether you're in the flood zone, and I'll show you how to do that. It's going to tell you the property tax information and like any permitting history, that any current permits that may be pending and things like that, right? And you can check your current permits using that same link if you do put in permits. Okay, so we're going to talk about permits in Hawaii. So technically, the Department of Planning and Permitting, which people just call it the DPP because it's faster, it says it'll get you approved permits in 3 to 6 months, but we all know in Hawaii it takes like 8 to 18 months to get a single family home permit. And there's also, I linked below a Google Doc with like a chart that shows you how long the permitting takes for different types of properties here on Oahu. So the reason why most flippers, the way they get around this is to just do an instant online permit. It's called a repair permit, okay? And so this is a fast track option for like small projects, so like replacing windows, just like flooring, minor repairs, right? Painting, stuff like that, right? So as long as, even if the electrical or plumbing is under $2,500, you can just do a repair permit, right? That's the super by the book way to do it, right? Now, if you do your first flip, it's better to find a property where you just do a repair permit, okay? And you're all within those legal limits, right? But, okay, there's some risks with repair permits, okay? So some investors print a repair permit and they start doing full renovations, like adding a room, adding a bathroom, or changing the layout, like knocking down walls and putting in new plumbing, new electrical, and it really just would require a full building permit, but they just submit a repair permit, okay, because it actually looks exactly the same. The piece of paper that you print out looks exactly the same, whether it's a repair permit or a building permit. So they'll go ahead and post it on the wall of the front of their house and just kind of hope that nobody calls or complains, right? That's when you make nice with your neighbors, right? You bring them malasadas and you talk story with your neighbors, and usually that helps a lot, right? Okay, so another huge trap for flippers is ignoring the tax records. Let's say that the tax records show 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, okay? And you add a bedroom and you add a half bathroom. So now you made it a 4 bedroom, 1.5 bath, okay? When you go to sell the property after you flipped it, typically what we're looking for are retail buyers, meaning like families who take out conventional loans to buy the house from a bank. And so when that happens, the bank will send their own appraiser to go verify the value of the home based on what you are selling it for. So let's say you bought a property for $600,000, you renovated it, and now you're selling it for $1 million. Okay. Now the buyer can go ahead and be like, I want this property for $1 million. Their lender, the bank, will send the appraiser, and the appraiser is going to look at the tax records. So we're talking about tax records right now. If the tax records don't match up with the bedroom and bathroom count, right? They're going to go based on the tax records. And so what the appraiser does is they do comparables, which is exactly what we do and what realtors do. When you want to learn the value of a home, or after renovated value, ARV, you look at comparables, which are houses in the neighborhood, neighbors that just sold recently, to see how much they sold for. Right? Hawaii is a disclosure state. meaning they disclose how much they sold it for. There's some states in the US that don't disclose this, which is crazy to me. But they will look at other houses and say, okay, that house, that house, that house, they all sold for $900,000 with the same bedrooms and bathrooms as the tax records. So this house is worth $900,000, not $1 million. So the bank's going to say, hey, that's not right. The comparables say $900,000. The appraiser that we hired said it's worth $900,000, so we're only going to loan you, the buyer, $900,000. So what happens now? You made a deal for $1 million, but they're only going to lend a $900,000. What's going to happen is the buyer is going to have to pay that difference of $100,000 in cash. If they don't have the cash, then they can't buy it. They can't afford it, right? So that can cause problems in getting this deal sold. Right now, today's market in 2025 here in June, it is a buyer's market, meaning the buyers have the power right now because the interest rates are a little bit on the higher end, not super high, but on the higher end. So it's hard to find buyers right now as flippers. It's very difficult. So they have a little bit of leverage here, right? And people, a lot of flippers right now are stuck with properties they can't sell. It's terrible, right? So you don't want to do this. You don't want to add a bedroom. You don't want to add bathrooms. If you can, do everything you can to keep it all the same as the tax records, okay? That's a huge thing here. So that's why we look up the tax records. And we develop a strategic plan as to what we're going to do before we even buy the property, okay? And we're going to go over that later. Okay, the next part, we're going to talk about the LLC setup. I'm going to put a video below on how to set up your LLC in Hawaii. It's very easy. You can use services that do your LLC for you, and you know, it's easier because someone else does it, but you can just do it yourself. It's not that hard, right? Or just follow my video. Okay, so hopefully that helps you. It gives you limited liability. So LLC stands for Limited Liability Company. It separates your flip from your personal finances. So, you know, if anything happens, they can't come after your personal money, okay? Unless, you know, you're taking out loans, then they'll come after your stuff. But that's just for liability, right? It makes you look more legitimate to lenders. So when we buy a property, we're going to borrow money from some people, okay? That's how it works. You're not going to use any of your own money, which is great. But to have an LLC is a lot better, okay? Title companies like it, you know, and then even buyers prefer, oh, they see it, it's a company. Oh, great, it's legitimate, okay? It's not just Uncle Bob over here, right? All right, let's lock this in. If you made it this far, you are ahead of so many more people, right? You're ahead of the game here. You know me, right? You have access to being able to do this. So, but watching the videos doesn't really build doesn't really build your skills up. You gotta practice, right? You gotta take action. So here's a few things that you can do right now to kind of move forward as a Hawaii investor, okay? As a Oahu house flipper, okay? So let's get these things done before you click on the next video, okay? I'll give you 1 week. This is your homework, okay? So put it on your calendar. 1 week from now, I'm going to have these done. Okay, this is more than enough time. You could probably do this in 2 days, okay, or even 1 day. Okay, so the first thing is to create your LLC. Watch the video guide below. I'm going to show you how to do it and create your LLC. Don't get stuck on the name, okay? The name doesn't really matter, okay? It really does. Use ChatGPT to figure out your name if you want, you know, whatever. Mine's called Guardian Properties LLC because I'm a firefighter and I protect the people of Hawaii, and that's why I chose that, Guardian, okay? The second thing is practice zoning and like flood zone lookups. So I want you to put in an address, maybe your own home would be great, or somewhere you're renting, just wherever you're living. Go ahead and check what zone it is, whether it's an R5, an R10, an A2, right? Depending if it's a condo or not, okay? And then you can actually check the flood zones and just watch the video below, and I'll show you how to do it. And then, you know, what I want you to do is do it as you're watching the video, okay? At the same time. And then do it again if you can. Just do it as many times as you want. The more, the better, right? How much do you want? How bad do you want this, right? How bad do you want this? So another thing I want you to do is join a Hawaii real estate Facebook group. Like, just go on Facebook and search, Hawaii real estate investor. You'll find a bunch of stuff there. Join some groups, introduce yourself, start DMing people, asking questions, right? Things like that, and start building a network. Okay, give me a call. There's always events going on here. You can call me, and I'll let you know when the next event is. Okay, just give me a call or shoot me a DM or whatever. All right, and you can come down, and most of them are free. Okay, some of them aren't free, but majority are. So take advantage of networking. It opens up all kinds of opportunities, and it's great thing. So important. I want to say it's probably 50% of being in real estate is networking. Okay, it's that important. So do it. The next thing I want you to do is really just clarify your why. Okay, now this is very important. Like, why are you here watching this right now? You know what I mean? Like, why did I get into real estate investing? Well, I was having I was just having a hard time with finances. This is Hawaii, man. Like, it's so expensive, right? And the more local people I can help stay in Hawaii, the more happy I am, right? Because we have to adapt or drown here, right? How many people had to move away from Hawaii that grew up here, right? How difficult is it right now? Okay, but figure out your why. Are you doing this for your kids? You want to pay for their college? You want to get out of debt? You want to save up for retirement? What is it, right? It's not always about finances. It's about making an impact on people's lives. Okay, so who in your family is gonna will you be able to help if you can make this work for you, right? An extra 50 grand a year. That's just one flip. An extra 100 grand a year. Right, $150,000 a year, right? The least amount of money I'll make on a flip is 30,000, okay, and upwards to about 100,000 is usually the range. Okay, so per flip, right? So you can do 3 flips in a year, 4 flips. You do the math, okay? The last thing I want to say is just really be open to learning. That's the only way I got to where I am, is just being very open to learning and talking to people and learning from people and having a mentor always. When I meet new people, I tend to ask them, okay, who's your mentor, bro? Who's your mentor? If they don't have an answer, they're not following anybody, they're not learning from anybody, that's great. I don't blame them, but I probably won't spend much time around them because they think they know everything, right? That's not a good way to get ahead. You'll never get ahead in life if you think you can figure everything out on your own and that you don't need help from anybody, It's just not it won't work, trust me. Now you understand what most flippers skip, okay? Zoning, permits, tax records, structure, okay? These are all super important. Due diligence period. When you buy a house, you have an inspection period. Due diligence. When you put in an offer on a house, before you even put in an offer, you have to calculate, do your due diligence, look at permits, look at zoning. If you're in a flood zone, okay, you don't know about it, you go to buy a property or sell a property, okay, insurance might be crazy, okay, this is very important. So these are all things I felt I really needed to go over. Hopefully you learned something about the permitting process here in Oahu. There's a lot of intangibles in real estate and flipping houses. Every deal is different. So the process of flipping a house requires a network of people that you can reach out to and ask questions at all times, okay? And that's why I'm here, and that's why I wanted to make this. Anyway, click below on the videos and then do your homework, the action items, okay, the things I listed there. And then click on the next section in a week, okay, or whenever you finish your action items. Very important, okay? Right on.